Welcome conference. We heard that word yesterday, didn't we? But I hope I'm going to be a bit more upbeat than that. And I'm going to start with some thank yous, really. Those of you who bet on whether I wore the hat or not, I wore it on and I've taken it off. So you can sort out whether you've won it or not. What I would like to do is I'd like to start with one or two thank yous because they're, firstly, I think, and you would want me to do this on your behalf, I'm certain. We would like to thank Alison for her year as president and the fact that she did an absolutely fantastic job. And if we are to believe what we heard yesterday, we might not have to redo English and maths for all of those young people and make them multiple failures. Well, that would be a fantastic outcome from that. So a huge thank you to Alison and every best wish on your retirement. Likewise, I think it gives us a chance also to pay tribute to another one of my predecessors. Because in June, of course, we launched this manifesto, and it's still really important to us today, isn't it, for our students? And of course, Ian led on that work all of that time ago. The afternoon's theme is around economic transformation. I'm just going to sort of just put a little bit about this. I was invited to go to the House of Lords to give evidence at a select committee on this, specifically around coastal communities. And one of the things I challenged them on, because they said there's a lack of aspiration in the sector, particularly in coastal communities. And I was very, very clear, no, that is not the case. I could give them examples in Weston, Bridgewater, Belfast, Exeter, Grimsby, Bournemouth, Poole, Birkenhead, Blackpool, Portsmouth, Weymouth, where in fact we are doing, and many, many others as well, where are doing fantastic jobs. And we heard that, didn't we, at the Helena Kennedy Foundation from those young people as well. We do amazing work, we are very transformational, and we can do that agenda if, of course, and the big if, of course, we get the resources to deal with this adequately. And what I'd like to do really is pay testimony to my colleagues and particularly the young people during that week for the amazing work that they did. So firstly, what about that then? Chesterfield and the Singing College. I mean, that was an amazing thing, I think, to do. Students from all over the country doing really amazing things. And, of course, their principals and their governors as well. I think it's the first time collectively we've probably ever done anything like that. We can do it better, and we need to go on doing that better. Leaders at the heart of their communities, delivering transformational change, improving economic productivity, and we ought to be celebrating that more. I think the thing that I was most impressed with was the fact that I met some students, and not just one or two groups, 3 or 4 minimum groups that had got up at 3 and 4 a.m. to travel with you down to London, from Middlesbrough, from Derwent, from Myerscroft, etc. And of course, many of you taking part in that march and doing fantastic work all around your communities to up the profile of our Love Our Colleges Week. I mean, I could give quite a few shouts out, but I'm going to pick one or two in particular, like Jerry for his inspirational closure of a college in London and giving everybody the opportunity to do that. It was, I think, the first time we'd ever taken such collective action, and we are going to need to if we're going to take it forward. I'd like to pay tribute, of course, to those students at a particular college in Hampshire, at Brockenhurst, who started that petition, and I'm going to come back to that later. That's unfinished business. We've got to finish the work of targeting the 100,000. And, of course, to those principals who did amazing things with their governors, sometimes managing to get ministers in for critical conversations like at Norwich and also here at BCOT. And to explain to you, we're far from finished on this. The one positive, perhaps, from the minister's speech yesterday was having the opportunity to talk to her PS outside. And we've been given very clear direction on what we need to do to take this strategy forward. So we'll be working with you in terms of targeting those colleges which have got direct relationships with MPs in Treasury or in marginal seats with ministers, where we can put increased pressure on and perhaps work with employers in those areas to see if we can secure what it is that we quite rightly deserve and need if we're going to be able to do our jobs properly. So that's about how we'll take it next. We need to do that in a very unified way nationally. We need to do it in a very unified way locally, and we need to do it regionally as well. And what a fantastic week that was. And we, like I say, we'll come back to the petition later on. We are also going. On the petition, we do need to get to that 100,000, and it's very, very, very important that we do. And I will come back to that later on. We also are going to need, if we're moving into a world of AI, we're going to need some significant investment in digital technology. And many of us have been very, very clear when we've been working with the department, we can and already do deliver this. There are outstanding examples in Harlow and Beacott and Portsmouth and the work that we're doing with JISC. But unless we're going to get the resource to do this, this is not going to be cheap, and it's going to be absolutely essential, especially if we're going to do this to deliver economic transformation in a fair and just way. We're going to need to work with our partners in a way that we haven't before, and I think that there's no better example of that actually than the partnership work that we've done with the NUS. For Secura and Emily to be there on the day, for the NUS to actually make FE funding their key priority for the whole of this autumn term is something that we've never had before. We're much, much stronger together, and we're actually much, much stronger when we engage with students on the whole agenda around talking to them about what sort of curriculum, involving them in quality, involving them in the decision-making of colleges. And I think sometimes we've perhaps overemphasized the role of listening to employers. They're often very, very good at giving us the generic skills that we need to be working on, but actually the young people themselves, and I'm talking of young people 7 and 8 and older, let alone by the time they get to work with us, who are very, very clear on the sort of experience that they want and the skills that they want to develop. And we're really looking forward to working with the NUS on that engagement strategy over time. I think this morning's hot topics were hugely successful, and there was one in particular that David and I attended that really links into this. I think the massive obligation that we've all got is to make sure we look after ourselves. It's very, very important that we get our own houses in order, we do look after ourselves, and we have the confidence to actually use the organisation. I mean, as a member, to use your organisation when there are signs of issues emerging, and my goodness, aren't there a number of those, so that we can help broker those conversations with the ESFA and also the FE Commissioner. That session this morning, I think, was really heartening for those of you who were there, because what we don't want to do is to find ourselves in the degree of difficulty that some colleagues have found themselves in recently with the inevitable consequences. And I think that means understanding some of the latest research as well. I mean, particularly, in Chris's book, I think, launched by Penny Mordaunt, the Minister, around the fact that diversity and inclusivity in leadership, and that involves working with young people and all the other agendas there, is going to give us the sort of leadership and the decision-making and the processes in colleges that our colleges are going to need going forward. I think the key skill in that not only is the digital literacy, but also the creativity. And if you want to give yourself an early Christmas present and a permission book, I can't recommend anything better than this. Chris was the world's first major independent comms and marketing company who decided to publish some research on this, really. He gave his company away, he took a year out to write the book. What he does is encourages us to say creativity is the key skill. We're actually so busy sometimes with technology, with mobile phones and laptops, etc., that we aren't given the time to think. Take the time out, do things differently. Go to that dance show you've wanted. Go and see the Queen film. Go and do something different. Give yourself permission to do it, because your brain then will operate in a very, very different way. So give yourself permission to enjoy things more, take a few breaks, and your brain will certainly work in a very different way. He's the one who called me the BFG in that book. I suppose we're often talked about being the Cinderella subject, are we? And I'm going to finish with another cartoon character in a minute. The one thing I do know about what we do, if we are called the Cinderella sector, is because we're magical. We're deprived of resources, and we do incredible things, and we get incredible outcomes for our students. And I know you're all very, very proud of that. I really want to reinforce the point, though, that we are a membership organisation here to support you. We want to make CREA as relevant as we can to make your needs, and we want to make sure at the earliest stages when your chair of governors or yourselves do feel that there are signs that the pressures of the job and the lack of resources to do it makes it difficult, we involve David and the team at the AoC in order that we can support you. Because we think it's really, really important that we have a pipeline of supply for the future. Somebody said today, and I couldn't agree more, I think it was Richard really, what a privilege it is to be a college principal. I'm in no doubt really, it's the very, very best job. I argue with people like Harry Redknapp in Portsmouth, and I'm a big Pompey fan, who had the best job, and I always said that I did, and I know you believe that as well. I think Carol talked about optimism and hope this morning. We've got to be optimistic, positive and hopeful no matter what the level of challenge is. The organisation is there to support you, because what we've got to start thinking about are the people who aren't principals in the room or chairs of governors, but are potential and aspiring people that we want to be our leaders of the future. And we've really got to make sure that we support them, and there are supportive programmes in place to do it. But we still got more work to do. We made a fantastic job, and how inspirational was that petition from those students at Brockenhurst? I think it was one of the transformational things, along with what the team here did. But to have only 67,000 signatures is actually quite disappointing when there are over 100,000 employees in the sector. One of the things I would really urge you all to do really is to see if we can do more. If we trigger the 100,000, it really will make a difference. If we support you with that targeted programme with the MPs that have contact with Treasury and also ministers in particularly marginal seats, we can do more. So what I'm really challenging you to do is to do this really. It is a membership organisation. For the first time, I think many of you decided to make a very proactive and active contribution to the debate. And that was so warming, but we need to still do more. It's difficult, though, with all of the pressures that you're under and that we've heard. But I would urge you to step up. We have got some powerful friends, and one of them is coming this afternoon. Rarely, I think, can we say we're actually really looking forward to someone from Ofsted coming. And that was such a powerful cartoon, because we've also, haven't we, got to use all the other partners that we've got to work with us on this agenda, and particularly Amanda. And Amanda's going to talk about quite, I think, a radical 3 I's and the opportunity of that with the new framework later on this afternoon. And I'm sure it'll be worth waiting for, and I'm sure you'll give her a very, very warm reception as well. I did find a page of Anne's speech that she dropped on the way out yesterday, and she was really, really apologetic for missing this out, really. So on her behalf, I really would like to say to you, it's a big omission. It's a really, really big omission, but what she really wanted to say to you is, I'm not going to make the speech that I did. I'd just like to say to you, you're actually awesome. You're actually incredible. You are making such a difference in the communities that you work and to young people, and that would have been enough. And I'll take a few questions, but it didn't quite work out that way, but sometimes things don't, do they really? But there we are. And we need to believe that, like I say, because you are the people who are making the transformational change to young people and your teams and to communities. And without us, the entire system falls over, because we're that linkage between schools and the university sector, schools and employers. And if the middle piece doesn't work, everything suffers. And we do need to be awesome, all of us, and you are. So I'd like to thank you very, very much for that. Teacher recruitment is getting ever more difficult. If we don't believe in the product and we can't sell it to people, who else is going to do it? We have the unique opportunity to grow our own. We're the only sector, actually, that has young people, don't they, from 4 or 5 right the way through to 16 or 18, and we let them go to all the other jobs. We've actually got to try and inspire them to stay in the places that we work in and we love so very, very much. And I'd like to finish with, because there's always questions, and I'm not taking any questions because I'm dashing on a train back to London, but I'm not actually. But I'm not taking any questions. What I'm going to do is answer the one that everybody asks. Is it true, Steve, that Paddington 2 is your favourite film? It actually is. And I'm going to wish you an early Merry Christmas and watch it, because it is the most uplifting Christmas film you can ever see. It's the most uplifting film you can ever see. If you're a Rotten Tomatoes fan, and I wasn't, but I found out, it's the only film ever to have got 5 stars for Rotten Tomatoes. I thought it meant it was really, well, I was going to say the C word, but really awful. But in fact, because it's really, really good. And the thing I like about this little guy is the phrase, and if ever you get off at Tottenham Court Road and you walk up to Stedham Place, there's some wonderful quotes from David Bowie on the building site to the right, and there's one from this little guy here. And he says, do you know the wonderful thing about London, but I think it's also the wonderful thing about our sector? Everybody's different, and that means everybody's included. And I'm so proud to work in such an inclusive organisation. Thank you very much.